Hey, it's Blind Spiral with Flynn. This is the I've never stopped an interview before in 3 years. I'm not stopping now. I swear to God, I thought that picture on the wall behind you was a swastika at first glance when I wasn't paying attention. And then I had to
No,
hold it together. That is not a swastika. That's great news because I was really concerned there for a second.
no. Despite the blonde hair and blue eyes, that's not how I roll. So don't worry.
Well, good. Let's talk fantasy football and not swastikas. So, how's everything been? I mean, it's been a long off season, almost there. 3 weeks left until it's go time again. How have you spent your off season? Have you been kind of still in the grind of fantasy? Are you checking a lot of? We were in a startup together. I think just the one. Um, have you been doing other ones? Have you been cutting back? Have you been not paying attention? Paying attention? Where are you at really in your off season journey?
Uh, yeah, it's hard. Like usually, I actually play some fantasy baseball in the interim
Mhm.
to kind of fill that void. But the dynasty leagues, and when you're in a bunch of them, there's always activity. And I did cut a lot of them back because there's just way too much last year.
Yeah.
I don't know how some of you guys do it,
How
but
many how many were you in last
there's.
year, and how many are in this year?
I think I got up to like 12 last year, and I pared that down to 7 or 8.
Yeah, I'm at 14 dynasty, 7 I commish, 7 I'm in, and then 1 redraft for work. And I hope it goes well, but I'm done like for real this time.
Yeah,
12
that's
12
what
was
we
way too
always
many.
say.
Yeah, right. But 12 was too many. Like it was just miserable on Sundays. That's my biggest fear is Sunday trying to set a lineup.
Yeah, well, just get that auto sub going, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I guess so. Crazy how divisive that's been. Do you have like a stance in that at all, or are you in the I don't give a shit boat like me?
Um, so I thought it's kind of cool. The stuff that Rick was bringing up in the chat with the,
Yeah,
putting a guy in on Thursday and having him set for a sub for a Sunday guy seems stupid.
yeah.
I'm guessing that'll get patched out later.
I think they already
Um,
came out and said that they fixed that, or we've heard your
okay.
concerns, and we're gonna like, I don't know if they're gonna change it where you can't do that or you can do that. I don't know. Um, but I did remember seeing something already that they're like, hey, we're adding an update to that because it's a little funky. But I didn't mind
Yeah, it
that.
seems like something they didn't like think through all the way, and they're like, "Oh shit, we got to
Yeah,
fix this."
now that they've asked other people other than like the two devs who haven't seen the sun in years, like
Yeah,
they get it now. But I honestly, maybe I'm crazy, but I didn't mind that so much. Like I didn't think it was amazing, but I was like, yeah, well, if you set it and they're locked in after the game starts on Thursday, then who gives a shit? But apparently, I'm very
yeah. As long as they're like handcuffed together at that point,
yeah,
it's not a big deal. Honestly, it should lock after they start on Thursdays.
yeah.
I
And
don't know how
that
long they
was my
can do
thought
that.
process too. Like you
Yeah,
can't pull them in your lineup anymore. They're stuck to this guy. You got no other option. But who knows? That's just
yeah.
I like the idea, and we'll see what happens from there. And I like that it's an on and off feature. It's not automatically on or automatically off. It's up to you. So I do like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our league specifically. Let's kind of just dive into it. Your team is consistently in a weird spot, and that mostly comes from your
Mhm.
division. Um, I know that talking last year, Cam kind of had you pinned as making the playoffs. The year before that, I think people had you pinned as making the playoffs. And now we're in this year where I think your team's the best it's been, but there's still this ambiguity of what's happening. Um, so I guess we'll start with this. Just what does a successful year look like for you and your team in your eyes for this coming season?
Um,
I
at
know
this
it's a
point,
big loaded
I'll
question.
just settle for being
3 wins.
better. Yeah, yeah. Not coming in last place again.
Yeah.
Would be kind of nice, but I think I said this last year. Like I would be pretty happy if I got into that extra pick game,
Right.
and had a chance at just kind of landing another first round pick. I don't really have ambitions of this being any kind of championship contender team at this point.
Right. But
So that's kind of the best spot to be if you're not going to be a contender. I feel like.
yeah, especially too when you look at your team, you've got that youth and you've got the nice little staircase, right? Like when you look at how long you've got your players and then the length, right? It's not jarring. So, for example, if I go to another team, probably Dan is a good example. I'm probably a good example too. Like, there's this huge cliff between years, whereas you've kind of got, oh, you drop a few, you drop a few, you drop a few. And I think that's nice. I mean, there's a breakdown. I'm trying to find an even better example. Morgan's got the same thing where it's nice and pretty. Unicorn might be a really good example. So let's look at Unicorn's team. So you go to roster. This is my shameless plug of the website. But like Unicorn, all of a sudden it just drops all the way down to here, then 2 people. It's like a huge cliff, whereas yours is nice and pretty, where it flows all nice, and you've got players for years. So you've got more of like the traditional dynasty versus the rental window. Like one of us here understands painfully so. Was that really intentional? Have you been building that purposefully, or have you just, have you gone out and acquired contracts that fit that build? I mean, you got the 4 first-round picks in there too, and that's nice. And how intentional, how much work have you put into that? Where you're like, hey, I'm building this for really long term, versus what Cam did, what Kmigs did with his negative $300 next year, what I've done, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think like a lot of us, this was my first like contract league. Probably was that way for a lot of us guys. And you kind of learn as you go. And so I've been trying to buy more into guys that I think I can kind of build around, and then you have your rentals that you're not attached to for long periods of time.
Right.
So that was kind of my thing. If I have a young guy that I think is talented, I want to try to keep him around for longer. Guys that I'm not sure about, shorter contracts, so I can just dump them if I need to.
Yeah. And your team already, Hollywood Brown out early with this injury. He's supposed to be about 4 to 6 weeks. Whether he's hurting your team as the Cardinals or hurting your team as the win like Flynn, seems like can't get away from Hollywood Brown coming back to bite you.
Yeah.
Does that not even phase you anymore? I mean, you've got the wide receiver room and depth for it, right? With Judy and Thomas and Harrison and JSN and all that. But not to mention, some of these guys you've got in the 1 year, right? Like Godwin and all that. But did that phase you at all, where you just like par for the course over here?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of used to Hollywood Brown being disappointing. I was really excited when I got him too. And now I'm like, oh, maybe that's like to get. But I do have a lot of depth at receiver this year. I've been loading up on young guys the past couple of drafts. So I'm pretty excited about just throwing them in and seeing how they do. And not having a ton of expectations makes that easier to kind of swallow.
Yeah. What do you think happens in your division? Do you think you sneak any games off the other 3? Because I mean, you look at Unicorn, you look at Cam, you look at Kmigs. I think all 3 of their teams have gotten better or stayed at that same level, right? But yours has arguably as well. Do you think you are, I think, 0-12 against them? Sorry to do that to you.
I didn't remember, but I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Let's see. So, yeah, you were 0-12 in your division games against them. Is this the year, in your opinion, that you can kind of take a game or 2 off somebody? Or do you think that that's a one day next year when the realignment happens thing?
Yeah, probably not. But my quarterback's a big question mark, because I just kind of Bryce Young and Will Levis and even Daniel Jones. He had the best contract at one point. These guys in the league. Yeah, these guys could be good solid contributors, but I don't know. And if they can contribute, then I think my team could be pretty decent this year. But I'm not going to bank on that.
And you've still got your picks and everything, right? Yeah, so you still have your 25 first. You don't have your second and third, but you do have your fourth. I mean, that first could be nice, because if it is kind of on that pathway that we project, like I think your team's in a good place to go to the extra pick bracket, or a good place to fight for the 101. and one of these quarterbacks doesn't work out, or two of these quarterbacks don't work out, you do have that in your pocket to continue to secure your super flex position. But we're also 3 years in at that point, and there are some fun contracts expiring. I know Lamar Jackson's contract's expiring. I wish there was I mean, you could do the view all contracts thing, but I can't filter this on the website, unfortunately. But Tua's contract's expiring too. There's like a lot of different pieces kind of coming up that could be interesting to get to when you get there, but that's so far in the future. When we look at this season in particular, is there a team that you feel like is a little bit more overrated than some of the others?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we're all feeling about Dan Flashes this year, but his team is really aging quickly.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people were shitting on him going into last year, and he kind of, shut a lot of people up. But he's kind of got some big question marks, and he could come firing up. Yeah, he could come firing out the gate, really strong again. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But he has some kind of older players, injury risk on the roster.
Yeah.
So I could see him take a step back.
He definitely is the epitome of the boomer bust, right? With JT, Cup, Rodgers, Kirk, Ferguson. It's one of the teams that it's like, cool, if you get injured or if you have a bye week, you're in trouble. But otherwise, you should be able to hold your own for the most part with some. And so it'll be interesting to see if he stays in or if there's a point that he ever decides to try to get out.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a ton of depth behind those starters, which are admittedly good starters.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are skewing older, and a lot of them have been injured recently.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of where I'm at. But
I
wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't count out Dan. He has a way of staging stuff.
What about anybody that's underrated? Anybody that you think is flying under the radar that should be getting more talk? I mean, it's the beginning of the season. We haven't been doing anything, so there's not really much talk, but anybody that you would not be surprised if they come out of the gate 3-0, 4-0, 5-1, 6-2 type deal.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably not an underdog anymore the way he loaded up his team with Chase. He killed it in the draft and free agency. He laid back. He got all the picks he needed, all that cap space, and he really beefed up the roster in the offseason.
Yeah. The thing that's funny to me is the $607 to Joe Burrow and Christian McCaffrey alone next year is a little concerning, but to your point, lots of good pieces there. Front loading the Pittman contract as well, I think, is smart. Front loading the Purdy contract, I think, was smart. Also, inventing the meta in terms of signing players to a 3-year deal versus a 5-year deal, which caused multiple teams to then. I forget who it was, but someone was like, "Can I switch?" I think the only person who didn't do the 5-year was Marvin Harrison Jr. and you. But even then, I think you took Bowers at the end of the first round, didn't you? And you signed him to a 3-year deal. So Chase started something new there, which is exciting and fun. But I agree. I think the Chase is flying a little bit under the radar here too. So.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison was more of a symbolic gesture by me. I'm like, no, I want that guy for 5. Like, I don't care.
Or forever.
I was just so excited to get that guy.
Yeah, and especially him being a Cardinal too. I mean, that's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
The math on it, if you could sign him to another 5-year deal, I wonder what it looks like. Let's plug our year 1 of re-sign calculator. So he's let's go look at this. Look at this handy anything. So you go look at the player on your thing in Sleeper, and then this was not rehearsed. And then you pull up Marvin Harrison, and there's a thing, and it says year 1 of re-sign -98, and then you click on this calculator, and then you click on calculator, and you type 98, and this is what it looks like math-wise. Okay. Yeah, look at that. So in theory, you could have him 147 a year for 5 years, but if you pay 244 across those other years too. So it's it could be expensive. That does not take into account the hometown discount, by the way. So it would actually be cheaper than this. But you technically could have Marvin Harrison for life You might just have to have like one rebuild year where you put $244 in 1 year, but then you can have him for 10 years, and that's cool. If he does the things that you're kind of expecting him to do. So,
okay. Yeah, I didn't actually know what that little thing meant in the contracts, and it was kind of like the Chris Pratt meme. Like at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. So I'm glad you explained it.
Yeah, I probably need to hold like a whole mini breakdown video on it or something like that. I just don't want, with all the way the contracts are working now, I don't want someone to trade for someone thinking they're getting them for, oh, like this guy's cheap, I'm going to get him for really cheap next year. It's like, actually, the first year of his new deal is going to be $700 or something stupid. So no, you don't want to do that trade. So that's what that is. So for those of you playing along at home, if you ever want to know how much it's going to cost to re-sign somebody, that calculator exists for you now in the corner. So that'll do it for us, though. Any final thoughts or anything else you want to go over or talk about?
No, I'm just really excited to get back to it, man. Like, this league is so fun. You know, I don't know if I'll keep playing the bully this year, but it's a little fun. I don't know. I can't do it. I can't do it like Morgan can, I think.
Yeah. Well,
Morgan set a really high bar with that.
No, I know. It was great. We got rid of Cade, and then Morgan was like, "Oh, well, there's room for an asshole now." So I'm excited. I want to talk to him at some point in time too. I think Rick's in the camera, so we'll get to see Morgan and chat with him. I haven't talked to Project yet either, so it'd be interesting to kind of see his thoughts and perspectives since joining us and all that too. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting this back rolling again. It's been too long, and I've been trying to keep up with stuff on the outside, but now that we're back awfully close to the nitty-gritty of things, I'm really looking forward to it. So good talking to you. Thanks for coming out and chatting, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you later.